Namaskar friends, I am Khushi and I am here to analyze Talwar movie in the light of Indian Evidence Act 1872. This movie is based upon Noida's famous Hemraj and Arushi Talwar murder case. In this case, a 13-year-old girl, Arushi, was found dead in her bedroom on the morning of 15th May 2008, while a house servant was found dead on the terrace of the house on the morning of 17th May 2008. Earlier, the police was suspecting Hemraj to be the murderer of Arushi. However, after finding the dead body of Hemraj, the suspect needle of police kept shifting from the parents to the other servants of the family and vice versa. In this case, there are no direct evidences and the whole case is based upon circumstantial evidences. So now, I will be analyzing all the evidences found in the case.
Section 5 deals with the facts in issue or relevant facts. Relevant facts are those facts which are in the eye of law, so connected with the facts in issue that they render them probable or improbable. To establish the relevancy of any fact, it must be shown that it is a fact in issue, as is declared to be relevant. So, when we look at the present case, then we find that both the murders are done in the same manner, that is, first causing the injury with the golf club and then slitting the neck with a scalpel. Therefore, the relevant facts in the present case are causing the injury with golf club and scalpel, death caused by such injury, and the motive behind causing both the murders. Section 6 deals with the relevancy of facts forming the part of same transaction. Part of same transaction here means a single incident occupying a few minutes, or it may be spread over a variety of facts occupying a much longer time and occurring on different occasions or at different places. So, when we look at the present case, the murder was committed at the night during the time period of 12 am to 1 am. However, when the maid came in the morning, she was told by Mrs. Talwar that Hemraj must have locked the door from outside and have gone to fetch milk. However, the thing was not so. The door was not latched or locked from outside. Also, the door could be opened from inside, but Mrs. Tandon asked the maid that she would throw the key downstairs so that she could open the door. This clearly brings us to the presumption that she might be seeking time to start over her pre-planned story of a daughter's murder. Section 7 deals with the facts which are the occasion, cause, or effect of the facts in issue. This section provides for the admission of several facts which are connected with the transaction under inquiry in several modes, that is, as being the occasion or cause of fact, as being its effect, as giving opportunity for its occurrence, and as constituting the state of things under which it happened. In the present case, the fact in issue is that whether the murder of Arushi was committed by her parents. The facts that at the time of murder there were only 4 persons in the house, out of which 2 were dead and 2 were alive, and also there was no sign of any forced entry, are relevant under section 7. This is because in this case presence of only 4 people in the house is giving opportunity for the occurrence of murder, and the fact that there are no sign of forced entry in the house constitute the state of things under which it happened. Further, as per investigation report submitted by police, Dr. Talwar, finding Arushi and Hemraj in a compromising position and therefore killing them out of rage shows occasion or the cause of fact. It is to be noted that idea of friendly entry in this case is rejected because the room of Arushi and her parents are just neighboring. So, when the murder of Arushi was committed, there must be some noise made by either Arushi or the murderer while entering the room, but there was no disturbance caused to the parents at the time of murder. So, the idea of friendly entry is rejected in this case. Section 8 deals with the motive, preparation, and previous or subsequent conduct. As per the explanation 1 and 2 of this section, the word conduct does not include statements unless those statements accompany and explain acts other than statements. But this explanation is not to affect the relevance of statements under any other section of this Act. When the conduct of any person is relevant, any statement made to him or in his presence and hearing which affects such conduct is relevant. So, when we look at the present case, the statement of maid that What Mrs. Talwar told her seemed like a made up story as it lacked spontaneity. This is because as soon as mate entered the house, Mrs. Talwar came out of Arushi's room shouting, "Look, what has happened to Arushi? What Hemraj has done to our daughter?" Further, also the fact that father asking police to search for Hemraj and offering them money to travelling to Hemraj's native town and start for a search, and later when asked for terrace keys by the investigative team, it was denied by the Talwar family by stating that they don't have any idea regarding the whereabouts of terrace key. All of this shows that they were trying to mislead the investigating teams, and it is their subsequent conduct. Further, it is presumed that in a general circumstances, parents after seeing their child murder must have hugged her and waved, and in that process, their clothes would be stained with blood. But in the given circumstances, there was no stains of blood of deceased found on the clothes of parents. Section 9 deals with the facts necessary to explain or introduce relevant facts. This section provides for the facts necessary to explain or introduce a fact, an issue, or relevant fact, or fact which support or rebut an inference suggested by a fact, an issue, or relevant fact, or facts which establish the identity of anything or person whose identity is relevant, or fix the time and place at which any fact, an issue, or relevant fact happened, or the facts which show the relation of parties by whom any such fact was transacted. In the present case, presence of blood-stained Scotch whisky bottle on the dining table clearly show that murderer, after committing the murders, has consumed whisky from that bottle, and also after the murders the room were completely dressed up and everything was in its place. From both the facts, it can be inferred that the murder was committed by someone well acquainted with the house and not any outsider. Further, no outsider would, after committing 2 murders, even dare to drink Scotch whisky, knowing that the room of the parents of the deceased was just the adjacent room and they might wake up at any moment. And in that situation, top priority of the murderer would be to flee away from the crime scene without being noticed. Thus, these facts in a way are supporting the inference drawn by the facts in issue, and thus necessary in the light of Section 9.
Section 11 deals with the facts which are not otherwise relevant become relevant. As per this section, facts not otherwise relevant are relevant if they are inconsistent with facts in issue or relevant fact, or if by themselves or in connection with other facts they make the existence or non-existence of any fact in issue or relevant fact highly probable or improbable. Thus, in order to make any collateral fact admissible as relevant under this section, there are 2 requirements. First, that the collateral fact must be itself established by reasonably conclusive evidence. Secondly, that it must be established, afford a reasonable presumption or inference as to the matter in dispute. This section mainly deals with the plea of alibi, and as per the theory behind this section, a certain fact cannot coexist with the doing of the act in question, and therefore that if that fact is true of a person of whom the act is alleged, it is impossible that he should have done the act. Thus, the fact of presence elsewhere is essentially inconsistent with the presence at the place and time alleged, and therefore with personal participation in the act. As in the present case, the plea of alibi was claimed by the servants against their confession in the narco test. This plea of alibi was testified by their family members and their employees, and also the watchman of the Talwar Society has testified that he did not see anybody roaming in the suspicious condition, neither has he seen anybody entering or leaving the flats, and hence the court accepted the plea of alibi. Section 24 and Section 25. Section 24 deals with the irrelevancy of confession caused by inducement, threat, or promise. It is to be noted
that such threat, inducement, or promise should have been with reference to the charge against the accused, proceeded from the person in authority, and sufficiently given to the accused person on reasonable grounds for supposing that by making the confession he would gain any advantage or avoid any evil of temporal nature in reference to proceedings against him. The word confession is not clearly defined under this Act. However, confession is an admission made at any time by a person charged with a crime stating or suggesting the inference that he committed that crime. While Section 25 states that confession made to police officer is not to be proved, however, both these confessions can be used as a corroborative evidences in the court. In the present case, confessions made by the servants in the narco test is not admissible in the court, and the court is not bound by such confessions. This is because the confessions made in the narco test are hid by Section 24 and 25. This is because in case of confessions made in a narco test, the person undergoing the test has no control over his mind and subject is forced to answer the question against his will, and therefore such confessions made are inadmissible in the court. Also, the subject undergoing narco test is interrogated by the investigating agencies or police in the presence of the doctor, and the entire confessional statement is hid by Section 25 of Indian Evidence Act 1872. Section 65B read with Section 22A. Section 65B deals with the admissibility of electronic records which is printed on a paper, stored, recorded or copied in an optical or magnetic media produced by a computer, and Section 22A deals with the relevance of oral evidence in cases when genuineness as to the contents of electronic records are in question. In the present case, it is inferred from the data of telecom company that the internet router of Talwars was active whole night and kept on going on and off, from which it can be inferred that at least one of the parents of the deceased was using internet and was quite awake that night. This is also proved from the report of Electricity Board that there was no power cut on the fateful night. These facts and electronic records are admissible as circumstantial evidences under Section 65B read with Section 22A of Evidence Act. Since in this situation electronic records produced by telecom company are genuine, this is because, as stated by Talwars, the router keeps on getting on and off due to power cut, but the electronic board confirmed that there was no power cut